Last week, an AI company swallowed a server provider whole and took down an RTS with it. Olden Era has a release date after a long run of delays, and Crown of Greed is out, and we'll be getting our hands on it shortly. Welcome to Critical News. We're starting this week with some grim news for Stormgate and for anyone who's been watching real-time strategy with any optimism left. Frost Giant Studios announced last weekend that Stormgate is losing its online multiplayer modes at the end of April. The reason is that Hathora, the company providing the game's server infrastructure, has been purchased by Fireworks AI, which has decided there's better uses for those computer resources than keeping an RTS multiplayer lobby alive. Hathora is winding down its game services entirely, and Stormgate is caught in the middle of that. Frost Giant says the game will be patched to allow offline play before the servers go dark, so the campaign and solo content will survive. But multiplayer is gone for now, and the studio's own statement makes it fairly clear that bringing it back is not a given. Their exact words were that restoring online play will be dependent on finding a partner to support ongoing operations, which is not the kind of language you use when you are confident it's going to happen. The brutal context here is that Stormgate was already in serious trouble before this news landed. The game launched into early access in 2024 with enormous goodwill behind it. Frost Giant was founded by former Blizzard leads Tim Morton and Tim Campbell, who had credits on StarCraft II and Warcraft 3 respectively, and the Kickstarter pulled in nearly $3 million on top of $35 million in private investment. Expectations were high and the early access release didn't meet them. The 1.0 launch in August 2025 did not turn things around either. Steam reviews are mixed and concurrent playing numbers have not been in double digits since December. The peak concurrent count for the last 24 hours is 28 players. For a free-to-play game, it's not a situation where you have much leverage when shopping for a new server provider. It's worth noting that Hathora has pointed effective studios towards Game Fabric as a transition partner, and other games on Hathora's infrastructure, including Splitgate 2, appear to have already migrated without disruption. Frost Giant has not mentioned the option publicly, which probably tells you something about the financial picture. The community has been asking for an offline mode since 2024, and Frost Giant's response at the time was that it was planned but it was not the main focus. It's become the main focus now, just not under the circumstances anyone would have chosen. This is a reminder of how fragile live service infrastructure is and how quickly an outside business decision can invalidate years of development work and player investment. More on this as the situation develops. But here's some good news to balance out that last story. Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era finally has a firm early access date, and it's the 30th of April. This is the first new Heroes game in over 10 years and has not been a smooth road to this point. The game was originally targeting early access in Q2 2025, slipped to late 2025, and then slipped again into 2026. What appears to have changed things is the involvement of Hooded Horse as publisher, who came on board alongside the existing Ubisoft arrangement and seemed to have provided whatever they needed to get the project over the finish line. The announcement confirmed Steam, Microsoft Store, and PC Game Pass all on day one, so if you're already on Game Pass you can get straight in without spending anything extra on top. The developer is Unfrozen Studio, a smaller outfit that has been working on this as a love letter to the classic series, and the game's foundations are clearly drawing from Heroes 3 more than anything else. The hex grid combat is a deliberate nod in that direction. The setting is Jadaim, a continent that's been referenced across the series but never actually visited in a mainline game, so there is fresh lore to dig into without the developers being completely hemmed in by what came before. The early access build is described as fully playable, with 6 factions, 3 game modes available in both single and multiplayer, the opening acts of the campaign, a random map generator, and a map editor. The 6 factions are Temple, Dungeon, Schism, Grove, Necropolis, and Hive. The campaign centres on rival factions having to work together to take down the Hive, which has been corrupted by a demon lord. Multiplayer will have matchmaking, rank play, and leaderboards from the start, and the hot seat mode means you can play against someone in the same machine, which is a nice touch for a game in this tradition. The plan is to remain in early access for around a year, though developers say that could change depending on how development progresses with player feedback. The interest in this one is real. The franchise has a deeply loyal fan base, many of whom have been waiting for a very long time for something worth returning to. Whether Unfrozen can deliver on that is the question, but having Hooded Horse involved is encouraging. They have a strong track record with strategy games to early access and generally do not rush things out the door. We'll be covering this one closely. Third story this week, and one that we'll be getting some hands-on coverage from us shortly. Crown of Greed released last Tuesday, and it's worth looking at if the Majesty formula ever clicked for you. The core idea, if you're not familiar with Majesty, is that you are a ruler who cannot directly control your subjects. Instead of commanding units, you set bounties and offer gold, and your heroes then decide whether the reward is worth their while. If there's a monster den causing problems, put a price on it and hope someone qualified turns up. The indirect nature of that is either going to appeal to immediately or it's not, but for people who find the traditional RTS micromanagement exhausting, this is a different way of engaging with the genre. Crown of Greed is developed by Blum Entertainment, and it leans considerably harder into city building than Majesty ever did. You are building up a full settlement from scratch, managing resources and your economy, and making decisions about which buildings you construct because different structures attract different types of heroes and citizens. Those heroes come with their own traits, positive and negative, and deciding who is worth paying for and at what rate is where the strategic depth sits. The setting is the fantasy kingdom of Rodovia, and the tone leads into the absurdity of being a monarch whose authority is entirely transactional. You are in charge in name only, everyone around you has their own priorities, and gold is the only language that matters. Joe will be taking it through its paces in a 30-minute soft shortly, so we'll have more to say on it then. And now for the headlines. Urban Ascend released on Friday. It's a city builder built around continuous growth and optimization, starting with a small town and asking you to scale up its functioning metropolis through interconnected systems that compound on each other as you go. Nearly 100 buildings, hundreds of upgrades, citizen management covering happiness, safety and governance, and dynamic incidents will keep you on your toes as things get more complex. Also out this week is All Will Fall, published by TinyBuild. It's a post-apocalyptic colony sim where the world has been swallowed by the ocean and you are building vertical cities and whatever structures are still poking above the waterline. The hook is a physics-based 3D construction system where weight distribution and material strength are part of the calculation, so a badly planned build can come down on your head. 3 factions with conflicting needs, supply chains, exploration as receding tides uncover new areas, and random events that force the kind of decisions that colony sims do best. 8 handcrafted scenarios and a sandbox mode with Steam Workshop support rounded out. Initial reviews are positive, with outlets pointing to the construction system as something that pushes it beyond the usual city builder template. And finally, the Victoria 3 team has published Dev Diary 178, covering the naval overhaul coming with the Great Wave DLC and Update 1.13. Fleets now cover entire sea regions rather than single nodes, using detection and visibility stats to determine whether a battle spawns each week when opposing missions overlap. Combat runs on an initiative-based turn system where ships attack, prepare and attempt to disengage, with weather conditions affecting each side equally and potentially damage vessels directly. Ships now have real staying power rather than being disposable, so losing them carries consequences it previously did not. The Great Wave also adds gunboat diplomacy, which lets you threaten naval hostilities when pushing a deal on another nation. If they refuse, you get 180 days of limited naval conflicts where you can blockade, bombard and make their coastline unpleasant without formally declaring war. Piracy and privateering missions also feature. The DLC releases on April 28th alongside Update 1.13. That's critical news for this week. On the podcast this week, we'll be stepping sideways looking at the games that strategy gamers tend to love even when they fall well outside the genre. And if you want to talk about any of these week's stories, come and find us on Discord. Links in the description, and we'll see you next time.